That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about News of the World, which Universal is releasing Christmas Day 2020.
I tried to watch this movie.
You were tired to be
But I was very tired and I fell asleep. But not because I thought it was, I did think it was a little dry, but from what I did watch, it was all right. So why don't you go ahead and tell the story?
It's the latest film directed by Paul Greengrass, who is probably best known for his three Jason Bourne films. Oscar nominated, of course, for United 93. His last film in 2018 was 22nd July, which was one of two films that year that was a reenactment of Norway's worst terrorist attack, where 70-some children were killed on that island that were part of that student youth organization union or whatever. This is a period piece. It's based on a 2016 novel by Paulette Jiles. It's about a ex-Civil War veteran, widower, Captain Jefferson Kyle Kidd, played by Tom Hanks, who we meet in 1870 North Texas as he travels around the world, much like a revivalist preacher would, reading news stories from around the world to audiences that will come pay a nominal fee to listen to him.
Okay.
And on his journey from one town to the other, he runs into this a black man that's been lynched in the woods, and near his body is this feral-looking child who we come to know as Johanna, played by Helena Zengel, who had a breakout role in 2019 in the German film System Crasher. He's able to deduce that she was being transported to her aunt and uncle. And as we come to learn, her family had been slaughtered when she was several years younger, and she had been abducted and raised by Kiowa tribe members and raises their own, so she speaks their language and not any English. And so then the two of them take off on this dangerous trek to bring her to her aunt and uncle.
Is he successful?
He's successful. So they go through a lot of trials and travails, and some of this is a bit on the nose, but it works quite well. Like there's a sequence where Michelangelo Covino, who you saw in The Climb recently, plays one of a trio of men that wants to buy the girl to use her as prostitution. She's like 10 or 11, and there's a shootout that I think is very well executed and staged. You left before that happened. And then again, they go through this Iraf County, who has slaughtered all the Indians and kind of re-enslaved all the blacks and slaughtered all the animals, and are trying to kind of come up with their own fascist sort of America that was really reflecting kind of time period of a nation we're in now. But basically, there's a stunt that Tom Hanks pulls there that really shows how the news is supposed to work when it's spread correctly.
What does that mean?
Well, because this man in Iraf County, played by Thomas Francis Murphy, has his own journal that he's publishing that's fake news, basically, and how when people hear objective news, facts and truths, they can use that to make their own decisions and not live life the way that they thought they had to.
Okay.
In short, is what I was intending to mean by that. He does make it back to the aunt and uncle, who don't seem any too pleased to have her. They speak kind of very little English. They're German immigrants. And then he goes back to deal. He was widowed, and we kind of learn a little bit about Tom Hanks when he goes back to San Antonio, where his wife died while he was serving. He believes God's punishing him for what he had to do in the war. He kind of basically comes to terms with that and decides to go back and check on the girl, and finds that her aunt and uncle had tied her to a post in the ground, and so he decides that she belongs with him.
And that's the end?
And that's basically the end of the story, yeah.
It still sounds dry, but go ahead.
I think, it's kind of it's a revisionist Western. There's tropes in here that are very familiar. Of course, John Wayne, who is not a person I care for, but his classic film, The Searchers, is something that I was thinking of while watching this. I think Helena Zengel is quite good as Johanna, and she's as silent as Tom Hanks is kind of loquacious. And Tom Hanks just exudes that energy of like, in his hands everything's going to be okay, which I thought he was kind of perfectly cast. And even between his lines of dialogue, he has this thing where he's really good at sensing people that have been abused or in trouble. Like you get that sense about him in this film at least, and I thought it was
like a service animal.
Well, if you're going to demean it that way, I don't know.
Your little coffee cups over there too.
Oh, is it? Well, I needed to keep amped. Elizabeth Marvel shows up in one scene. I think that's where you kind of woke from your slumber and lumbered off to bed. She's the one that speaks the same language.
The person in the restaurant.
Yes.
Who spoke the language
yes.
of the little girl.
Probably a little too well, but Elizabeth Marvel, who I know from House of Cards.
Also, her eyebrows are very well shaped for 1800s.
Sure. I'm not going to say the details were correct in everything. It was very well shot by Darius Wolski. Very obviously great, expansive landscape sequences. James Newton Howard's score I thought was fitting. It felt like a very human tale, and I felt myself compelled for these two people in the end that come together. I'm interested to see how Helena Zengel, I know you haven't seen System Crasher, but that is about a girl whose out of control behavior can't be controlled by any means, and she's very good at playing a certain type of child. I'm interested to see how she progresses. Mare Winningham has a small role. It's always nice to see her. I don't know, it wasn't what I was expecting, and I don't know.
What would you give it?
Oh, and also Paul Greengrass directed Tom Hanks and Captain Phillips, of course. Did you see that?
I didn't. I would rewatch it, actually.
Okay, so I think that if you really gave News of the World a chance, it's not as action-packed as Captain Phillips, but I don't know. I was surprised to see this from this director.
So what would you give it?
I would give it 3.5 out of 5.
Oh, okay. All right, bye.
Bye.